friends, I am Suresh, former director of the Center for Yoga Studies, ANNAMALAI University. Personality development is of concern to everyone nowadays because life has become so complex, which affects various dimensions of personality. And in order to understand personality and take efforts to develop personality, we need some framework. And if we see the Western psychological system, there are many frameworks. Like for example, there is psychoanalytic framework, there is a cognitive framework, there is a behavioristic framework, humanistic framework, etc. So each one explains personality in its own way and why personality gets affected and what needs to be done for a healthy development of personality. And similarly, the Indian system also has its own system of explaining as well as classifying personality. And one such system is the Panchakoshas for the development of personality. A kosha refers to a sheath, that is a covering of the Atman or self according to Vedantic philosophy. So in terms of the Eastern system, the Atman or the self is the ultimate reality. Sometimes it is also called as consciousness. So that is the center of one's all experiences. And the Vedantic philosophy as well as the Indian system speaks about 5 sheaths of human personality. That is, this is a framework which explains the various classifications of personality, and accordingly the Panchakosha framework can help us in understanding as well as taking efforts for developing personality in an individual. So the 5 sheaths are Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha. And let us see how each one can help us. Annamaya Kosha, that is the physical body. The physical body, Anna means food and Maya means made of. So a segment of the human system nourished by food. So the segment that is nourished by food is the physical body of the individual. So it is in that sense the body is considered to be the foundation or the basic one for one's personality, because it is through the body that we experience everything. It is through the body that we perform various types of activities, and ultimately when there is some sort of an inadequacy in the body, that can affect the personality of the individual. Like for example, when there is a physically challenged person, he or she is unable to run or do things like a person who has normal body. So ultimately, when he is unable to mingle with others, perform the various types of these activities, and sometimes people also point out the inadequacy in the person, it can have an impact on her or his personality also. So the person may feel that I am less capable or I am incapable, and which has an impact on his developing self-esteem, and he evaluates himself in a negative way. When that is the case, he is unable to take efforts to perform activities to the maximum, and ultimately that can affect his other development. So that way the physical body plays an important role. Not only that, it is the body that is visible, that is concrete. So that also plays a very important role in forming impressions about our own self. That is why you can see, like in the society, a fair complexioned person is considered superior to a dark complexioned person. So sometimes a dark complexioned person develops a low self-esteem, and similarly a tall person is considered to be good looking rather than a dwarf person. It is in that respect all these things can have an impact on the psychological makeup of the individual also, and ultimately it affects the personality development. Similarly, during adolescence, if we see the boy or a girl frequently quarrels with the parents, and it is a universal phenomenon, not just in India, universal phenomenon, and parents are become highly upset about it, because my child who was listening to me all this time, now for every small thing she or he is quarreling with me, something is wrong. And the adolescent spends most of the time outside with the friends, so the parents tend to believe that it is the friend circle that is spoiling him. But actually, objectively, if we assess, it is not the friend circle that is spoiling him. In a way, it is the friend circle that is helping to protect his mental health to a certain extent, I would say. Then what is the reason? The reason is that the adolescent starts developing adult-like characteristics. Like for example, the boy starts seeing that he has started developing mush, and when he sees that mush is gradually developing, he feels that, well, I am not a child anymore, I am a grown-up person, so hereafter I can be independent. So that type of a feeling comes in. When such a feeling comes in, he expects others to treat him like an adult, but the parents continue to see him like a child and treat him like a child, which causes unpleasantness to him. And as a result, he resists such type of treatment from the parents, which the parents don't understand. And as a result, the home atmosphere becomes unpleasant for him. Ultimately, what happens? He goes out and spends the time with the friends, and friends treat him as an equal. They respect him, they consult him, they take his ideas, they make decisions jointly, which he enjoys because he is respected and treated appropriately, which he enjoys. And when he comes back home, parents actually get angry and shout at him, thinking that tomorrow he is not going to do that, which means parents are adding to the already existing unpleasantness, and he is going to spend more time with the friends again. Instead, we need to see why he is acting like that. The parents should change their perception toward the child and change their behavior toward him. So that is where it happens. So that is why the physical body is an important component of personality in terms of the Panchakosha framework. Then the second one is the Pranamaya Kosha, that is the energy body. We need energy to perform any types of activity. So pranayama, that is the vital air sheath segment nourished by prana, contains the 5 pranas that manifest in the physical body and connecting it to the next kosha, that is manomaya kosha. So to perform any activity and to proceed to higher forms of development, energy is required, and that is where prana plays a vital role. And we need to expand our prana, we need to make use of the prana in a more effective way, and otherwise there will be a shortage of prana where it is required if you overspend the prana in some one particular place. So the prana is found throughout the body and it is needed for every corner of the body. That is where pranamaya kosha, the sheath, is important. So when you have energy, you are doing the activity to the fullest possible extent. When the energy is lacking, then your activity also comes down. So that is where energy plays a vital role, and energy has to be used in a meticulous way, in an appropriate way, so that a healthy development occurs. For example, when a person develops depression, in depression, well, energy is spent more to think about the problem rather than directed toward finding solutions to the problem. So as the person keeps on thinking about the problem more and more, it appears that the problem is growing day by day, which actually is not the case. So the energy is depleted thinking about the problem itself more and more, and ultimately alternative is not seen. So it is in that sense the pranamaya kosha is an important aspect, and energy, it supplies energy for various types of activities. Then the next one is manomaya kosha. that is the emotional body, the feelings that we experience. So, the mental sheath, the segment that is nourished by knowledge, it contains jnanendriyas and karmendriyas for interaction with the outer world. So, it is the segment nourished by knowledge. When knowledge is lacking, that we call as ignorance. That is why any time when a person acts in a faulty manner or when a person acts in an inappropriate manner, then people say that he is acting out of ignorance. When you say ignorance, what it implies is that, well, he does not have the right knowledge and he is acting probably on inappropriate or wrong knowledge. As a result, if this sheath has to develop, then ultimately what happens? The person should seek right knowledge. So, right information, right knowledge is required, and as we have seen, the previous one, Pranamaya Kosha, actually helps in developing this Manomaya Kosha. So, this leads to the higher form of development of Manomaya Kosha. Right. Now, we say that it contains jnanendriyas and karmendriyas. What is jnanendriya? It is the sense organs through which one perceives objects of the world. So, we come into contact with the world, we understand the world only through the sense organs. So, the capacity of the sense organs are important for understanding the external world, and each sense organ provides one type of information. Like for instance, when you are given a sweet, you look at it, then your visual sense organ provides one type of information, its appearance, its beauty, etc. Then you smell it. Well, the fragrance actually, if it is attractive or aversive, so the smell actually attracts you toward that. Then the third one is the taste. When you eat it, well, it gives you a pleasant feeling, and when you touch it, you learn about its texture, whether it is hard, whether it is soft, etc. That way, each sense organ provides one information about the object which another sense organ cannot provide, and that is why psychologists say that when you provide experience to the child or when you do anything, well, stop other activities, focus completely on what you are doing, so that you will gather information through every possible sense organ and your perception of the object will be more accurate. On the other hand, well, you keep on eating, you didn't bother about the taste, etc. Like nowadays what we do, you switch on the TV, you are engrossed in the TV and you keep eating. Next day you don't even know what you ate the previous day. Here, so every activity has to be done with involvement and every activity has to be enjoyed. Whether you are eating your food, you must enjoy that. If you are watching your favorite TV program, you must completely enjoy that. If you are interacting with a friend of yours, you will have to enjoy the company of the other friend. You can't have all of them. Then you will take only a fraction from each and ultimately a complete satisfaction does not occur. So, that is where sense organs help us understand the external world accurately, and it is essential to make use of all of them in any given situation, and it is in that sense you see nowadays multitasking. Multitasking is wanted nowadays because one can do simultaneously many activities so that you can complete activities faster. Yes, you can do it faster, but does it give you satisfaction? Does it give you happiness? Then what for are we doing that? The reason is we are doing for the sake of money. Money is important, but does money get what we want? Only at a later stage we realize. So, it is in that sense when you indulge in any activity, be completely engrossed in the activity so that an accurate perception occurs, you understand it accurately, and only when you accurately understand the performance of your activity would be appropriate. Like for instance, if I am giving a lecture, it is essential that I understand the expectation of the students. What is it that they expect through my lecture here? When I say Panchakosha in personality development, on seeing the topic, naturally you will understand how the Panchakosha framework will be helpful for us toward personality development. How can it be used to promote personality development? Without doing that, if I am just talking about the various theories of personality in the Western psychology, then you would see no relationship with the topic here, and ultimately my perception is faulty and my whole exercise becomes a waste of time, waste of energy, your time is wasted, your energy is wasted, etc. So that is where accurate understanding is essential. Then karmendriyas, these are organs of actions through which one manipulates with the objects of the world. So when you understand, the next aspect is action. Action again should be appropriate. When the action is, and you manipulate objects of the external world so that you are able to attain what you intend to attain. So for that, the organs of the body help you to perform the various types of activities. And so your activity in that sense again should be appropriate, properly done. Like for example, if I am hungry and I see the tiffin box in front of me with food, if I keep looking at the food, my hunger will not come down. Then what should I do? I must take the food, put it in my mouth, I must chew, etc. Only when I perform appropriate activities, well, my need will be satisfied. Only when my need is satisfied, it develops my personality further. I move toward higher forms of development. So that way, it is the mind, the Manomaya Kosha, the mind, the mental sheath, which helps me in acquiring knowledge. And when I acquire knowledge, as I said, either you can acquire faulty knowledge or you can acquire right knowledge. We need to understand what is right knowledge and try to focus our sense organs on those aspects rather than focusing on the faulty aspects. Like for instance, we get a smartphone to our child, and through a smartphone, a child either can use it in a positive way which will contribute to his growth, or he can use it in a negative way by taking in wrong things from the various channels. And a child who is young, who is immature, is attracted toward the wrong things. When he is attracted toward the wrong things and enjoy, well, it gives him only temporary pleasures, again in a wrong way. Ultimately, the growth of the child will be affected. So that is where Manomaya Kosha is an important aspect that for the development of personality. The next one is Vijnanamaya Kosha, that is the wisdom body, that you call it intellectual sheath. This is nourished by ego. Vijnana literally means intellect. Hence, Vijnanamaya Kosha is the intellect, wisdom, or the knowledge sheath. Now, one may ask, well, what is the difference between the previous one, Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha? Manomaya Kosha is more concerned with lower forms of understanding, acquiring information. Vijnanamaya Kosha, on the other hand, functions at a higher level. That's why you call it wisdom body. So when you say wisdom, what it implies is that you use the knowledge and you try to analyze the knowledge, you try to see what knowledge is appropriate, how to store appropriate knowledge, where to find appropriate knowledge, etc. That's why in the Indian framework sometimes people talk about a physical body and a intellectual body. So you differentiate between the body and the intellect. Now the lower level is only with regard to the sense organs, which consists of the mind, and as we know, the mind runs after pleasures. Anything it comes into contact with, well, it is attracted toward that. That is why whenever you go out, your mind wanders from one thing to the other. And to exploit you, nowadays the corporate world, when you go to a mall, say for example, things are arranged in a very attractive manner. because you are stimulated more and more. And if you see the advertisements, it appeal to your emotions more and more. So when this happens, naturally your mind goes after them, it wants to possess them and it wants to derive the pleasure out of them, but all these are only temporary. In the process, we fail the long-term benefits, long-term development, etc. So that is where the intellect, the wisdom body, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, what it does is, it tries to think, it tries to analyze, it tries to discriminate. So that way you try to see, well, if I going to buy this, is it going to be useful for me? Do I really need that? For example, nowadays every one of us want to have the latest model of the mobile phone. But how many of us think whether we really need that? What for are we going to use that? Then if that purpose is served by the present one, why do you need a new one? And there are so many features, and many of the features we don't use them at all. There is a difference between a convenience and a need. Convenience is, if it is there, well, it's convenient for you. You need not go anywhere, you can talk over phone, you can get things done, it's convenient for you. But is that right? We do not know. Whereas a need is something which, if it is not there, your life is affected in some way. So that way, like for example, if there is a person who is working in the field where there is no way of contacting the person through any other way, a mobile phone is required. Whereas you and me, when we are in the office, if there is a landline phone, you don't need a mobile phone. But why do you need a mobile phone? Because it is convenient for us. And so here we don't really analyze and discriminate. We don't use the intellect. So that way the intellect performs the higher forms of mental activities. And when you say higher forms of mental activities, one may logically ask, is there lower form of mental activity or basic form of mental activity? Yes, there are. The basic forms of mental activities are like sensations, perceptions, etc., which provide you the input, the information. And you call them basic because unless they are present to your sense organ, well, you cannot understand them. So through the sense organ, when you gain information later on, without the presence of the object, well, you are able to use the information at the mental level and create new information and analyze the positive ones, the negative ones, etc. And then through discrimination, you are able to find out what one is the right way, what will contribute to my development in the long run, which path to follow, which ones to avoid, etc. And accordingly, we will be able to do that. So that is where the Vijnanamaya Kosha is contributing to the higher forms of development. But what happens in the present day society? Well, we rely on the electronic media for everything. Ultimately, the discrimination, the analysis, all the capacities, well, that is given to the machines rather than we developing them. And moreover, nowadays we talk about artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence either can be detrimental to the personality development of the individual or can facilitate the personality development of the individual. Like, instead of using your natural intelligence, if you completely rely on artificial intelligence, then you are not going to acquire knowledge, and ultimately you will develop more and more dependency on the artificial intelligence. When it is not there, your life will come to a standstill. On the other hand, it can facilitate your natural intelligence, like you do something with your natural intelligence and try to analyze it with the help of the artificial intelligence that gives you a feedback as to where you can improve, how you need to improve, etc. So that way it can facilitate the personality development of the individual. So that is how we need to analyze, we need to understand, we need to use, and we have to promote wisdom for which opportunities are to be given. In the examination, if you see, there are structures for the promotion of the wisdom in people. Like, we have different types of questions. One is, you have part A question where you have to write the answer in 1 or 2 sentences. Then you have part B question where you have to present it in a paragraph. And then you have an essay question where you have to elaborately explain the answer in about 5 to 10 pages. Now, the same question can be used in any of the 3 parts. If it is given in part A, then you must condense the answer, present only the essence. And when it is asked in part B, you must slightly elaborate, focusing on the nucleus. When it is asked in part C, then you must elaborate it, extend it, stretch it as much as possible. So here, that is where your intellect should help you to make use of the information that you have. But unfortunately, what happens, where in whatever form you write, some mark is given to you and ultimately you think that your answer is right. So, the wisdom sheath, we are not meticulously trying to follow and then promote the wisdom in the individual. We need to promote right from the beginning. We know that, see, if you see, children are bombarding elders with questions because they are curious to know. So, for everything they will ask you why, what, where, etc. Like if you tell them that you must have a glass of milk, then the child will ask, why should I have milk? Good for your health. Fine. Then later on you tell them that you must have the fruit. Why do I need the fruit? Good for your health. Then later on when you tell them that you must have something else, why should I have it? Good for your health. Well, in what way are they different? I do not know. Then the child asks, well, I had a fruit, it is good for my health, so I don't need milk, I don't need this. Immediately parents say, do what I say. So, you promote obedience rather than promotion of the wisdom or intellect of the individual. Instead, they should be answered appropriately, because one of the common questions that children ask throughout the world to the parents is, where do children come from? Then as parents, what is the answer that we give? Does our answer actually facilitate the intellect of the child? Think about it, and whether we do that, well, we have our own doubts. So, that way the wisdom has to be promoted for the healthy development of the individual. Then the next one is Anandamaya Kosha, the bliss body. Ananda means blissful experience. This is the innermost kosha, having close proximity with the soul. Hence, experiences the blissful experience coming out of the soul. So, the soul is the central aspect in the individual. So, that is what, when you reach the soul, when you understand that, that is when it is said that the person has attained self-realization. So, all our actions should go deep within us, connecting it with the larger universe and try to merge with the larger universe. That is what you call as the expansion of consciousness. And all other happiness they are seeking in your life, like having a pleasant food or going to a pleasant place or listening to a pleasant song, all these things are only pleasurable activities. And we need to differentiate between a pleasure, a happiness and bliss. When you say pleasure, that is superficial, that is whatever you derive through your sense organs, a pleasant smell, a pleasant song, etc., which is temporary, short-lived, that is pleasure seeking. Then when you say happiness, for attainment of happiness you have to take some efforts. Like when I want to buy, let's say, a car, I will have to save some money, so I need to perform some activity, I put in some effort, as a result you derive happiness. Whereas bliss is the long term one. As you go deep within, you realize yourself, the true reality of yourself, then you experience a happiness that cannot be described by words. That is why in the Indian system we say that though we explain many of these things theoretically, well, unless you experience that, the person cannot understand. And if I have not experienced bliss, what I am doing right now is only an academic explanation. Well, beyond that there would be much more. Unless you and I experience that, well, we cannot understand what exactly it is. And that is why spiritual practices are encouraged so that the person can attain the highest kosha, the topmost kosha in the personality of the individual, the Anandamaya kosha. It marks the segment which is nourished by emotions and consciousness. When you say emotions, emotions of positive in nature, emotions which are enduring in nature, emotions which contribute to further development of the individual, and consciousness is nothing but understanding the larger universe, and where you understand that you and the larger universe are exactly the same. So that is why we say, well, the human potential is unlimited. You are born with unlimited potentials. So there is no end to that. So you keep on expanding, you can keep on adding to the bliss that you enjoy. This is the intuitive expansive sheath aligned with the causal body and is often thought of as the soul, the Atman. So the soul, according to the Indian system, is reality. The body is only temporary. The body is not you. Your name is not you, etc. The soul is yourself. The soul doesn't have a structure. The soul actually enters the body to perform various types of activities. So in terms of the Indian system, the soul has no death. So it leaves the body and then takes in another body, and it continues its life. That is the assumption of the Indian philosophical system. So the highest form of personality development is the Anandamaya kosha, and the various spiritual practices help us in attaining Anandamaya kosha. And yogic practices, as we all know, are spiritual practices which help one to attain the highest level of personality development. Right. Now, when you talk about this classification of personality, then what is affecting our development in the present day life in terms of the Panchakosha framework? The present life, as we all know, is materialistic. So when you say materialistic, what does it mean? Well, you are more concerned with your physical body as well as deriving pleasure through worldly affairs. That is why you want to accumulate more and more wealth, more and more money, etc. When you accumulate more and more, you must understand that when you save more than what you require, you are depriving somebody of his share of requirement. Because the assumption of yogic science is that the universe consists of a limited amount of resource, and this resource is adequate for the species that is living on the universe at a given point of time. So the universe has enough resources for all the species if all the species lead their life based on the minimum requirement. So that is the assumption. And when you accumulate more, naturally you are depriving of somebody of his share, so his life is affected, his happiness is affected, it has a larger consequence. So the present day life again is accumulation of wealth, where you become more and more selfish, and because you become more and more selfish, ultimately, well, your personality development gets affected. I give you a small psychological analysis here. Like in a society where most people are not affluent, very few people are affluent, most people are satisfied with their life, because they look for earning their livelihood on a day-to-day basis. So if I get what I want today, well, I am satisfied. There is no competition, there is no jealousy involved in that, and when people around me are in the similar situation, well, I am satisfied with what I have. Similarly, when there are few people who are affluent, they are happy. Why is that? Because these are the people who have more comforts, who feel that, well, I have earned more compared to many other people because I have the capacity to do that, and they use their affluence to contribute to the welfare of other people also. That gave them a sort of status, that gave them a sort of meaning in life, a satisfaction in life, so people are happy. Whereas when most people in a society are affluent, like our present day life situation, most people are not happy. Because when many people are affluent, that is when competition comes in. So when that person has bought something, I should also buy, otherwise I would be considered inferior. So that way there is so you see your fellow human beings not as your fellow human beings, you see them as competitors, either to be avoided or to be fought with. So that is why we go away from each other, we don't trust each other and we mistrust each other. I give you a small example. We install CCTV camera everywhere. Like when you are at home, your home is supposed to be the safest place for you. It is supposed to provide you a sense of security. Then why do you need a CCTV camera at your house? Are you afraid that a lion or an elephant is going to enter your house and harm you? No. You are afraid of another human being who is likely to harm you. So ultimately what happens? A sense of insecurity. Why do you need a CCTV camera on the road? Because the police is there to regulate the traffic, and you don't trust the police, you don't trust the pedestrian, you trust the machine rather than the human beings. And God is supposed to be all powerful, God is supposed to protect every one of us. Then why do you need CCTV camera in the temple? Even God is not secure in our hands. So that is how life is going on. So when the person is busy making money, he spends more time making money. In the process, he spends very little time or no time with the family. So when there is no time spent with the family is deprived of his love, his affection and other things. So ultimately what happens? Though we have many conveniences and comforts, we are not happy in life. It has affected our personality, and that is why psychological problems are on the increase. And we focus more on the outer world rather than the inner aspect. We see that, or we feel that the outer world is reality. That is why you consider your body as your reality, not the soul. And ultimately, all your activities focus on nurturing the body, protecting the body, etc. And even when you learn yoga, most people learn yoga in terms of only the physical fitness or physical wellness or physical exercise rather than a spiritual activity where I can understand my own soul. That is not the case. So we have understood the outside world. The knowledge explosion is so much that you have so much knowledge about the outside world but little knowledge about our own self. And we compete for limited material. As I told you, there is limited resources. We are competing with each other. We want to store more and more for a longer period of time, depriving more and more people in the society. In the process, you lose your peace of mind. Your spiritual development is affected. Ultimately, the personality growth is stunted. We focus more and more. For example, in the schools and colleges, we focus more and more on marks than knowledge. That is why examination is considered to be stressful. And I would say examination per se is not the cause of the stress. The cause of the stress is our attitude toward the examination marks. So nowadays, parents focus more and more on the mark rather than the knowledge the child has acquired. And they assume that when the child gets marks, well, knowledge is there. Not necessarily. Ultimately what happens? Producing the information as such gets him more marks, and getting more marks helps him to enter into professional courses. So this is how it is seen, but it is your knowledge which transforms your personality, which enriches your personality, and which gives you a sense of achievement, a sense of satisfaction, and an ability to contribute to the welfare of others. So it has to be seen in that angle, but our view is very narrow, highly distorted. As a result, our focus on examination is wrong. The same way, we see that people are addicted to various aspects like alcohol, drugs, mobile phones, etc. What is addiction? You want to get the pleasure more and more continuously, and in the process you move away from reality, because all you want is the pleasure, and in the process you fail to understand or focus on your soul, you focus on only the body. So as the mind is addicted, well, it wants the pleasure more and more. So you remain at the manomaya kosha itself, you want to have more and more, and as you seek more and more, you go away from reality, you go away from your own self, and ultimately it affects the personality development of the individual. And it is in that sense yoga can offer solutions to all our problems if practiced with the spirit behind it. Don't consider it only as a physical exercise or activity. Instead, yoga is a vast system of spiritual science which gives you a wide variety of spiritual tools for your healthy development. And yoga is not an end in itself. Yoga should be seen only as a tool for the healthy development of personality. It provides you different practices, and these practices help developing the various koshas in a healthy way, so that problems can be avoided, occurrence of problems can be prevented, and healthy development can occur in the individual. So it is in that sense yoga is a healthy science, a human science, which can contribute to healthy personality development. Thank you.